Hi guys, this is your G-rated version of the hero's journey. Uh, so I have several graphics, several charts to show you the different steps. However, this chart that I have up is the best one. It has all 17 elements. Most charts only have, around 12 to 14. This one's going to be the best one. Again, this video is going to be wholly boring, and I'm really sorry, the other ones are really much better, but hopefully you'll understand the elements and the stages. So Joseph Campbell was the one who wrote all of this down, and he was the first to kind of teach it or pick it apart this way. So that's why we call it Joseph Campbell's monomyth. There's 8 stages, but there's 17 elements in it. So it starts out, and this chart's a little confusing because it goes counterclockwise instead of clockwise, and I think that's the main reason I don't like this chart. But so each hero starts out in the everyday world, in your normal everyday life, and obviously, Harry Potter under the stairs, Neo working his computer, whatever your normal is for the start of the story, and then there's a call to adventure. Somebody comes and says, and gives them information that changes their worldview. It changes, how things could be. Harry Potter's letters, Neo's the follow the white rabbit on his screen. Usually there's a refusal of the call. Most heroes are kind of reluctant, the reluctant hero trope. Luke Skywalker, when Obi-Wan Kenobi says, you could do it, and he says, no, I've got to stay here with my aunt and uncle. Generally, there's some sort of supernatural aid, especially if it's a fantasy or science fiction type story. The lightsaber for Luke Skywalker, the Hagrid coming and helping get him. The mentor generally appears at this time. Obi-Wan, Hagrid, Morpheus. Somebody comes in to kind of hold their hand and help them go through that first threshold. So then they go through that first threshold. They're not quite sure of themselves. They don't know, but they make a commitment to go. The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit books both had that, where Bilbo and his nephew, both of them, they didn't want to go. They're resistant, but they do commit to it, and then they start to go. And if you remember, especially in the Lord of the Rings part, where they're walking out of the Shire and they're still complaining about going. They really don't want to go. Belly of the Whale refers to, of course, Pinocchio, but that first big test, that first big view of this new world, of this other thing that changes their life. After that, they'll never be the same. Of course, there wouldn't be a story if they turned back at this point, but even if they turned back, they still would never be able to see their everyday world the same again. So we go on to the road of trials. Challenges, temptations, training. This is them learning how to use, if they have gifts, how to use them, if they need to train, training to make sure they're prepared for all of the challenges. And there could be several of these. It doesn't necessarily mean just one. Maybe it's a whole bunch. Okay, so this gets a little confusing here. There's a supreme ordeal. Usually, because historically, especially with ancient mythology, our heroes tend to be men, a woman shows up. And the woman is either seen as a goddess there to help them through, or a temptress hoping to get them to come off of their path, to forsake the rest of their journey and just stay right there. Sometimes it's the same girl, starts out as a goddess or becomes a temp, and then becomes the temptress, or vice versa. Um, Luckily for us, we are coming up with new stories, new characters every day. We're no longer stuck with the gender that we have here. They're starting to come out with great stories where there's women heroes who have goddesses come help them. There's, male heroes who have gods come and help them. It does not have to. World's wide open right now. Story can be anything anymore. Atonement with the Father. Generally, there's some sort of new understanding that the hero goes through that makes him more comfortable or understand something he went through as a child. We say atonement with the Father because historically that's generally what it is. But it's something that brings them a new perspective, a new understanding about their life, how they got to where they are, how they started out where they were, and all that. Of course, this revelation is going to bring them new perspective, a new view on their life. So then they're going to transform, and a lot of times in movies, the transformation is visual. It shows them getting new clothes, packing on weapons, or whatever it is. But there's new attitudes, new beliefs, new talents that they acquire because of this, a new sense of confidence that they have. They have started believing in themselves, and they're thinking a different way. And then we have the boss battle, the apotheosis. Final death and rebirth, yes, it can be literal. In the biblical stories of Jesus, he was killed and reborn. Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, Aslan was killed and reborn. A lot of times, it simply means that, so if we look at the Matrix, his death and rebirth, there's that scene where he's being attacked and he's starting to die, and Trinity whispers how she loves him, and that's his rebirth into, and now he is actually Neo, the One, and he comes out and he's able to beat the boss. Then the ultimate boon, depending on what story you use, that one's a little bit harder to find. They kill the boss and they're able to be who they really were meant to be. Sometimes the final death and rebirth is the boss battle. When they kill the boss, that's their rebirth. But sometimes, like in the Matrix, his death and rebirth was on the ship, and then his ultimate boon was inside the Matrix when he was finally able to kill Mr. Smith. And then after you have your boss battle, that's it, you're good. So sometimes the hero will refuse to return to their real world, refuse to go home. The magic flight, obviously they're not going to go home the same way that they got there. A lot of times there's some, especially in fantasy stories, there's going to be some sort of magic carpet, magic portal. In Star Wars, of course, spaceships. A rescue from without, a lot of times what happens is they're hesitant to go back, but they have somebody from their everyday world that needs them, or that comes to get them and says that they're needed in the world they started out with. So when they return, they're then Element 16 is the master of the two worlds. They now know the hidden world, so they see everything differently. A lot of times I see this in movies where you've gone through the whole movie, going through all of these experiences, and then they end up in that same room or the same shot that they started the movie in. And because you know all of the things that you know now, you see that scene or that room differently. And the freedom to live, Luke Skywalker no longer sits on Tatooine wondering what could be. He now had the freedom to live how he wanted to live. And I'm talking about episodes 3, 4, 5. Episodes 4, 5, 6. I don't talk about episodes 1, 2, 3 or the other ones after. So then, of course, if they haven't made as much money as they wanted to, they're going to have a sequel. That same hero can be called to adventure several times. Sometimes it's hard to see them as a reluctant hero again. They did a really good job in Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes to Yoda and is kind of whiny, really whiny about his situation. You know, so depending on how many sequels, the hero may return to the everyday world and then get the call to adventure again and again. Harry Potter, of course, had to return to his everyday world. We didn't learn that until book 6 or 7. He had to go back to Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon because that's the only way that the spell of love would continue to protect him. So, depending on how many sequels there are, how much money the person wants to make from writing their book or making their movies, the hero can be called to different adventures over and over again. Okay, I hope this really helps you understand your assignment. Your assignment is to make something, anything but a poster. Do not make a poster. It's not going to have enough information on it. Video, slideshow. You can write an essay if you love to write. An essay is a great way to do this. You pick a hero that you know. It can be a real person. It could be a historical figure. It could be from a book. It could be from a movie. It could be from a television show. Pick a hero to you, and explain that hero's journey with at least 10 of the elements that I've talked about here or that you've seen in the other movies. Don't skimp. I need good information on each of the elements. Don't just say, R2-D2 came and told Luke to go. That's not. I need good information. I need proper sentences. I need to know that you really understand the hero's journey. As we read Odysseus, as we continue to read Odysseus, I'll point some of these out for you too, so you can see it. Thanks for joining me. I really hope this video helped you. I will put this and a couple other images up on your Google Classrooms so that you can have them for reference. If you have questions, feel free to email me. Ask me questions. I will do my best to keep up. Thanks.